Welcome to the Audit and Finance Committee meeting for June 26, 2019. We do have a quorum. I would like to go around the table, and so we can take attendance that way. Sure. And all those that are members of the Audit and Finance Committee, please start. State your name and your legislative district, please.
Bill Clay, Bob, District Bob.
Chris Higgins, there.
Paul Bergdorf, 23rd Latham and Loudonville in the Village of Colony.
This is me, Rich Mendick, 36.
Mark Grimm, 29th, that's Guilderland, Western Ave, and Carmen Road area.
Ray Joyce, 13. Joe O'Brien, 25th, Loudonville, West Albany.
1 Willingham, 3rd Leg, Arbor Hill, West Hill, North Albany, Shaker Park, Bishop's Gate. I think that's it. All right. So we're going to open this up. We're going to start with by approving our previous minutes.
Motion.
I have a motion. Any second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we're going to take this out of order, and we're going to start with the sheriff, and we're going to number 14 through 16. All right. 14, authorizing an agreement with Mega Training Systems, Inc. regarding the purchase of a mobile range trailer and amending the 2019 Sheriff's Office budget.
Thank you, ma'am. So we spend in Albany County roughly $120,000 a year for firearms training in overtime. I have to, by law, give all of our correction officers 5 hours of shooting and range time, as well as classroom on Article 35. So we've been looking for a range for years. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't want it in their backyard. I probably wouldn't either. So we have found this trailer device down in Georgia. We put out an RFP. A company named Megit won the bid. It's $274,000. And just shy of 3 years, it would pay for itself. And then we'd save $100,000 after each year. So I think it's a good purchase. I think it's a smart purchase. It's a safe purchase. We can also rent it out to other agencies if we want to, and recoup monies even faster. Everybody is starving for range time. And again, it's got all the OSHA-approved equipment in it. It's safe. There's no bullets going to fly out of it. Believe it or not, it'll handle up to a .308, which is, well, I guess, a sniper round, so to speak.
Well, I don't know what a 308 is, but I imagine it must be good.
You get you Call of Duty.
Mr. Mindy?
Question, you said that there was savings. Is the savings coming from that you'll be able to schedule the shooting time on regular hours?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'm actually going to take this trailer and park it right in the jail. COs will be able to come out, qualify, go right back in.
Gotcha.
So we're losing the travel time, we're losing all of that, and we'll be able to do it on the clock as opposed to assigning them 8 hours to go travel to Guilderland or Bethlehem and have to backfill with the overtime.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Mr. Burko.
Do you see a use for it anyplace else other than at the jail in terms
Oh, yes.
of,
Oh.
where else would,
Well, we can
could it
take it,
potentially be
actually,
used?
we can take this anywhere. It's a tractor trailer,
Okay.
and we have a tractor. So we can, use it at the jail. The FBI in Albany is also, I spoke to Special Agent Magneto, and he's like, wow, that's pretty interesting. I mean, it's gonna save a lot of people a lot of money because we can actually take it to them, leave it, they can just come out, qualify, and go back in. So you're losing all that travel time, you're losing range. Right now, people struggle for range time in the town of Bethlehem. It's an old quarry down off of, what is that, 101? 101 off of Hotelings Market there.
Yeah, okay.
Runs to 396.
Yeah.
And every agency in the area uses it. So we're always struggling. And I have to by law do my COs every year. So, and we have a lot of them.
Can we motion to move this?
seconded?
Second, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 15, Authorizing the Albany County Sheriff to create 2 deputy sheriff positions and amending the 2019 Sheriff's Office budget.
Ma'am, this is more of a reallocation. I would like to delete 2 correction officer positions at the same salary and move them over to 2 deputy sheriff positions. Again, we've taken on a lot of additional duties. We're taking on a lot of transports. We're taking on additional court time through Raise the Age and everything else. We have to be properly staffed. So I was going to do this through the budget process of 2020, but I'd rather do it now since I have the positions.
Questions? Yes, Mr. King.
Just, Sheriff, the entry-level salary is $38,000? That's it?
That's kind of the face I make when I say it.
I'm sorry.
Any other questions?
Maintenance people in the Senate might make more.
Mr. Berto?
You start at 38,000, what is it
You know?
at plus
I
5?
said maintenance people in the Senate probably
At
make more.
5 years?
Yeah,
It's pretty close.
Right now, I believe it's like 68, 69. I'd have to verify for the exact number, but
and
it's
how does
about,
that compare with the local law enforcement agencies?
with the exception of Albany PD right now, who hasn't had a contract, I believe, in a half a dozen years or so. And once they sign, they'll go, far past us. But we're down pretty much the lowest.
So the exodus to other law enforcement agencies continues?
Yeah, it does. But I want to also, just for the record, I mean, we fought hard last time and got the deputies a pretty good contract. We made some changes within and went from an 8-year step to a 5-year step. The problem that I face, sir, is that, all right, you're coming in at such a, ridiculous salary, and then I've got to hold you for at least 4 years, because the monies are coming in years 4 and 5. So I'm going, 3 full years and just begging that you don't have a baby, you don't need to pay your college loans, and you've got 5 people living with you in an apartment.
And you don't come up
expenses.
on a test for one of the local
Exactly.
law enforcement agencies?
Right. So it's problematic, and, I get it that everybody's looking for more money and everything else, but when you have a hemorrhage of awesome deputies leaving for other departments constantly, it's twofold. You're training them. Yes, I can go after them and get a minuscule amount of money back, but you're also, those municipalities are saving because they don't have to send, so they're getting a double bang. And I'm losing a double.
Any other questions?
Motion.
Tim, you got a question?
No, I was making one.
Okay, I need a motion.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 6, authorizing an agreement with the United States Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance regarding reimbursements for the incarceration of criminal aliens and amending the 2019 Sheriff's Office budget.
This is the State Criminal Alien Assistance Program, AKA SCAP. As I mentioned in some of the prior meetings, we budgeted roughly $25,000. This fluctuates every year. This year, instead of the 25, we're getting 58,000, so we get double it. Next year, we hope to get upwards of 50 as well.
Yes, Ms. Minnie.
Just a quick question. How do they define a criminal alien? Is an illegal alien a criminal alien?
So a criminal alien would be somebody that got picked up for, let's say, a DWI,
Okay.
burglary, anything like that, and were thrown in the jail and then deemed to be illegal as far as immigration status as well. So those numbers are calculated. Usually they're about 18 months behind. They're calculated, and then we get a stipend for that. That's usually, it's strictly for the jail. Can be used for almost anything as long as it's correction related.
So these are not people that are picked up by ICE or someone else that are
No,
just
these-
being held for a short period
These
of
are
time?
normally, one of our deputies comes upon a car, he's suspended license or whatever, and
Gotcha.
goes in that way.
Great, thank you.
Are there?
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. Sheriff, you said something in an earlier meeting that really piqued my attention. You said, because we made millions of dollars on taking boarders. Now, boarders are people who have not committed any crimes other than they came in the country illegally.
Right.
And we made millions of dollars on that, but I think I heard you say we're not doing that anymore. What are the financial implications of that?
We'll hit our mark that we budgeted for. So the borders, you gotta weigh it all out. So I can sit here and say, hey, we brought in $5 million extra last year that were not budgeted, which we did. But then, start sifting through, how much is that costing me additional for pharmaceutical, for medical, for, for overtime, whatever the case may be. So that number's gonna be decreased somewhat. But the other issue that we have to look at is that we were providing an awesome service, I think, by having pro bono attorneys come in, by having pro bono translators coming in, by cleaning them up with good medical, great nutrition, and doing just a lot of the basic needs that all of us take for granted every day. And by doing that, Homeland Security decided to start to pull the people out of our jail, because I guess we were treating them too good in Albany County. So they were all pulled out and sent to various correctional facilities that I guess supported the mission of just throwing them in jail and letting them sit for 18 months or 24 months. I can't do that. I can't put my head on a pillow knowing that these folks did nothing wrong but try to come into our country and live the life that we all live, and avoid sex trafficking, human trafficking, political revenge, whatever the case may be, and know that they're sitting there for 18 months with nothing. So we basically had a parting of the ways, and I do not accept them anymore unless they allow us to do what we want to do. I don't want that.
So that's the end of the revenue stream then?
Well, no, it's not, sir. I still have 105 boarders in there right now as I sit here.
Okay.
There's different rates. Greene County gets a rate, Schoharie County gets a certain rate because theirs was more catastrophic, so to speak. Their jail floated away.
Well, these are borders from other jails that are overcrowded or don't have a jail.
Greene and Schoharie are overcrowding, and then I have roughly 75 Marshals prisoners, which are the same rate as immigration.
But these are not illegal immigrants from ICE. As of right now, there are no ICE illegal immigrants in the jail.
Right.
That has significant financial implications.
On both sides, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, are there any other questions? Okay, I have a question. You said we have 105 borders. Outside of the borders, what's the population?
So if you took the 430, so you'd be down to about 325, give or take a couple.
So it's 325 plus 105?
Yes. Those aren't exact numbers, but, they're within a couple. I mean, as I'm sitting here, somebody could be getting released.
Okay, are there any other questions? If not, can I get a motion? Have a second. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All right, opposed?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we are now on number 17. Oh, I see. Good evening, ma'am. All right, number 17. Authorizing the purchase of real property located at 510 Shaker Road in the town of Colony regarding the installation of a traffic signal.
Hi, yes, so we're requesting approval for the acquisition of .014 acres of land from the Good Shepherd Evangelical Church, which is at the corner of Albany Shaker Road and Shaker Elementary. It's for the purpose of constructing a traffic signal at that location, and the acquisition cost will not exceed $2,000.
Questions? Ms. Berger?
No, let Chris go first.
What's the genesis for putting a traffic signal there?
I can.
This is part of the Shaker L money we just got last month.
And it's part of the 2015 study that I authored back in 2015 to do a complete study of the corridor there. And
Is the town supported?
oh yeah, the county.
This is where Joe and my district come together.
Yeah, I remember this. I just want to make sure that the town...
The town is completely supportive.
Great.
And also, I'd like to really compliment DPW. They have gone through the ringer to make this happen, and to make it happen in such a way that it can be turned on before the school year in September. And we, in the Public Works Committee, put the contract out for bid, and it's gonna be a tight schedule, but there's just a little tiny corner, this land, where DPW had to go meet with the parish council and the reverend in charge of the church to make this a reality, and they really did a tremendous job under tough timeframes.
And it benefits the school and the church there.
In the church. And there were 2,000 residents that petitioned for this.
Yep.
So it will be well received by the community, and the county can be proud that it took the leadership.
Okay, any other questions?
No, just a motion.
Okay, motion,
Second.
can I get a second? Got a motion and a second, all those in favor, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. All right, number 18.
Alden Shaker is county. That goes all the way to the airport. Everett Road, that's where it starts. Everett's a county.
Good evening, Mr. Blanchard.
St. Crete.
All right, number 18, amending the 2019 Albany County budget, contractual expenses.
Correct. We're asking for a transfer of funds to cover the purchase of Sophos antivirus product. It's a cybersecurity product that we deem necessary to protect the county and its data from ransomware, any anti-malware. It's sort of an antivirus on steroids.
All right. Are there any questions from, no questions? Okay, can I get a motion?
I have a question. Where's the transfer coming out of?
It's out of contingency.
Out of the contingent fund?
Yes. This was an unscheduled purchase that we had made, and at CAB, we had brought it to last month. This is to replenish that if the needs, for needs.
Okay, there was no other budget line to grab this money out of other than contingent?
Not in information services.
So we're using the contingency account to
Yes.
purchase this ransom.
We already purchased this.
Oh, you did?
Yes, we, as you know, it was very hectic when the city of Albany had their mishap last month.
Yes, yeah.
During the CAB process, the contract,
Oh, okay.
we brought this remedy to CAB as an emergency kind of situation. You know, it's $50,000, it's within the CAB limits. And this request is to backfill that line for needs going forward.
Okay, Mr. Higgins.
Did you have a question?
No.
I guess I'm confused. So if the CAB approved of it,
Yes,
they just didn't have any money to pay for it.
yes.
Now they want us to pay for it after
The request is that, I mean, if the sacrifice comes, honestly, if the sacrifice comes that you can't buy computers or stuff of that nature, because that's what the schedule
So,
we had.
Just a follow-up, I guess.
I want to follow up.
Was there, the emergency is
Contingency.
what happened to an entirely different municipality in the county, not to the county itself,
Okay.
correct?
Expand on that?
Yes.
We are directly connected to the city of Albany for certain purposes. So on the weekend of their cyber attack, they took great lengths of informing us. We took protective measures. We were unaffected, but put us in a very awkward position. Their cybersecurity can cost tens of thousands of dollars. This we thought was a good value product to cover the whole county, servers and workstations. We could continue to purchase other products, but we considered it an emergency.
Can I have a follow-up?
Yes,
So-
Mr. Higgins.
This was not competitively bid, right?
It was.
Oh, it
Off
was?
New York State procurement.
And this is the
contract.
lowest?
Yes.
Mr. Bergdorf.
I'm just a little bit troubled by the process that you went through. Because it strikes me that to buy something, and even if we need it, in a $720 million budget, and say, there is no $50,000 available anywhere in this budget, anywhere. And this has to come out of contingency and deliver it to the legislature. And I don't know who's hearing about where it's come from first, But we get money, we get grants for cybersecurity. Why couldn't that money be used for it?
There were cybersecurity grants. We have applications for other products right now.
This is not,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Perry, this is not a criticism on your need for the product. This is a question of, if we approve this, what we're basically saying to the county executive is, you no longer have to manage a budget. Because out of the $720 million, don't anybody bring any new purchases to us and tell us that it's a priority. Because obviously, this budget is so tight, and there's not a line any place in it, or a vacant position, or anything that can support a critical emergency cybersecurity piece. If we're saying that it has to come out of the contingency, that's also what we're acknowledging. And I don't know whether or not the Audit and Finance Committee was consulted with this, but if we go ahead and approve this, we should be asking every, we do budget transfers here every month, where commissioners come in and they move money around. This is revenue neutral. We're going to give raises. We're going to turn this position here. But now we're saying, nope, can't do it. So.
Response, Mr. Davis?
And not to belabor it, what we did is we are requesting this. It can be shot down or vetoed or voted against.
Did you explore?
This is a request.
To follow up on
Mr.
Mr.
Bryan?
I'm sorry, thank you, Madam Chair.
Within IT, yes, we did. We labored through it and to see if it is. And if this does not get rejected and we have to live within those means, that is perfectly fine there. We would have to sacrifice buying computer equipment or whatnot.
Chair
It's
recognizes
a request.
Mr. Higgins?
Wait, so assuming it weren't to be approved, are you saying that there is money in IT to pay for the contract? Is that what
We
you
would
said?
have to skip replacement of things like servers and workstations that we have on a plan to replenish. A workstation has a useful life, and Perry, if I go out of wrong here, 5-7 years, we'll say. We might have to push those back a year or two, or, but that's 50 workstations times, just if you're gonna look at it that way.
Or you could put it in next year's budget, which is a few months away.
For this year's budget, we already had cut back on the number of workstations that we were going to replace from the previous year. And that saves on office licenses and workstations. Right now, we have to go from Windows 7 to Windows 10. Our staff have about 1,000 workstations that have to be upgraded by next year. Microsoft will no longer support Windows 7. A lot of these workstations we can upgrade as is, but there's a lot of workstations that would no longer support it. So between dropping our budget and having to purchase, replace these, it's put us in a tough year with that alone.
Ms. Bergdorf?
I was not, please, for the record, I was not suggesting that we stop the IT budget and stop, Windows 10 versus Windows 7 or upgrading. But I seem to believe that in this committee, we've moved money around between departments. We found lines that were vacant. The county executive has, management and budget has recommended places where perhaps in June or July, instead of being at 50% of expenditure, we're at 30% of expenditure, and we're gonna throw a surplus. Wouldn't
Should we table this?
do we not look at those kinds of options? And I don't wanna stop this. I just worry that we're not using the flexibility of the entire budget.
Okay, as chair, my question is this. Is there an objection to moving this out? I want to know if I can get a motion and a second on this?
I motion to move it.
Okay, can I get a second?
I second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
No.
So let me just get the no's. Again, it's in bird.
Okay, so we have 2 noes and,
So it passes.
okay, passes.
Thank you.
All right, so, well, number 19. Okay. Good evening, Mrs. Laxton.
Good evening.
All right, number 19. Authorizing an agreement with Command, Martello, and Marone, CPAs LLP regarding ongoing accounting and consulting services at the Albany County Nursing Home.
Yes, HMM has been our accountants for probably over 2 decades. They are responsible for our Medicare, Medicaid cost reports. They work with us on our certificate of need process and capital expenditures for reimbursement, and are always on the call when we need them for interpretations of new regulations, and when we get our Medicaid cost reports to analyze them for us. We're asking for a 1-year renewal, which is permitted under their current contract, and that annual cost would be $44,500.
Any questions from a member?
Just a comment. I'm very happy to see that there's a lot of MWBE responsive bidders, successful bidders.
Say that again?
Just very happy that there's a lot of responsive MWBE bidders
Okay.
to all these contracts
Yes.
coming through tonight. I think that's great to see.
Where's that at?
It's in the materials.
It's in one of the others, not this one.
No, but I'm looking at the most.
Yeah, coming, it's one of the future ones that I'm going to discuss tonight.
We want to hear about that. Okay, so, can I get a motion on, I got a motion, I got a second. All those in favor, number 19? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we're now on number 20. Authorizing an agreement with the TC Equipment LLC regarding the purchase of furniture at the Albany County Nursing Home.
Yes, TC Equipment was the lowest responsible bidder for our closets that will be installed eventually in all 250 resident rooms. They happen to have been the previous lowest bidder when we bought the beds, bedside cabinets, and dressers, so that's a good thing, so all the furniture will match. The cost of this purchase is $354,415, and this was competitively bid.
Question, Mr. Clerk?
No, we're not Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul.
I was gonna move it.
I'll second moving it.
Do I have any questions?
All those in,
So the indication, okay, about the NWBE, is that in regard, number 23? Okay, I'm sorry. All right. I
have a second.
I got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Number 21, authorizing.
they should tag it.
We are on 20. Authorizing an agreement with Standard Commercial Interiors regarding the purchase, storing, and installation of office furniture at the Albany County Nursing Home.
Yes, this contract to Standard Commercial Interiors will be for furnishings that are off a state contract versus competitively bid. So, and I've attached all the items, there's probably around 600 items there that are all off a state contract and approved by our purchasing department. This is a woman-owned business. The cost of this contract will be $600,303.20. And again, as I said, all of these items are state contract and required for the renovation of the nursing home.
Any questions? Okay, I got a motion, I got a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Number 22, authorizing an agreement with Standard Commercial Interiors regarding the purchase, storing, and installation of residential furniture at the Albany County Nursing Home.
Okay, Standard Commercial Interiors were the lowest bidder for these products. These furnishings were items that were not within the state contract and had to be competitively bid. They were the lowest bidder at $584,584. And this will be a capital expenditure for the nursing home and planned in our budget as part of the furnishings for the renovation. And I've attached all of the items that we will be purchasing from them and/or stored till the second phase of the nursing home is complete.
Okay, just for those interested parties, explain the capital expenditure.
The capital expenditure is an item that has a useful life, like a dresser, a bed, a generator, the building itself, and that item would be capitalized over a period of years, but we will submit it on our cost report to the New York State Department of Health for reimbursement, which will be given to us over the same life of that product.
And so, is this through the bond?
It will be through bond, HNN 8, correct.
Okay, that's what I really want.
Yes.
Okay, all right then. Any other questions? Can I get a motion? Got a motion? Got a second? Got a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Madam Chairwoman,
Mr. Riley?
thank you. This request is to request the acquisition of 81 Orange Street. It's a vacant lot in the city of Albany. We originally acquired it via the tax foreclosure process, transferred it to the land bank before we realized that the County Department of Public Works could utilize it to store snow on in the winter from the family court building, and eliminate access. They were previously trucking it out, much further out, and utilizing a lot more manpower and wear and tear on the trucks. So this way we can just pile the snow up there, let it melt right there on site.
So where's this located in relation to the family court building? Orange?
Is it behind it? There's a map that shows you very little right there.
Xerox it a couple more times.
It's behind it, it'll allow them to push the snow, I believe, out of the parking lot into a clear space in that small parking lot over to the side.
Is it already open?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right, any questions?
Can I have a question? May I?
Sure.
Ray, did I see your hand up?
Yep. I'm concerned about the neighboring properties. We're not going to flood other houses on these property lines at 17, 16,
No, I believe it
34?
actually drains back down into the parking lot as it is.
Okay, so we won't be
Yeah.
flooding neighbors with melted snow?
No, and we've had the engineers look at it and everything. It was their idea.
Okay.
Mr. Patrick?
That was my question. Well done.
Oh, okay. All right.
Quick question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, let's move it.
Okay, got a motion? Got a second? Great, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good.
All right, Madam Chairwoman, along a similar vein here, this is a request to convey 215, 219.
Okay, can I read it, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right, number 24, authorizing the conveyance of parcels of real property located at 215 and 221 Seminole Avenue in the city of Albany.
So there's actually three addresses. It's 215, 219, and 221. They're all adjacent to each other. They are all directly behind the requestant's property line of 228 Tampa Avenue. These are unbuildable lots that were created as a paper street when Route 85 was built. So they're on that slope of the hillside where it's unbuildable and unreachable. We've done 2 or 3 other transfers like this previously to abutting landowners. Basically, it just secures that piece of land behind their property so they can maintain it as a noise break or use however they want.
Any questions? I got a motion. Can I get a second? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Number 25, rescinding the authorization to convey real property pursuant to resolution number 250 for 2019 and authorizing the conveyance of 54 Bridge Street and the property known as Bridge Street in the town of Bethlehem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this is one of our normal reacquisitions. The only difference for this one is this is actually a commercial operating business that fell behind on their taxes and is looking to reacquire for a pretty large sum. We have certified funds for the delinquency, and it's the side lot as well as the street lot that's listed.
Motion move.
Okay, no questions? Okay. I got a motion? I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, very good. All right, number 26. Authorizing a release of rights of reacquisition to 10 Osborne Street in the city of Albany.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. This is a request that we received from Albany Housing Authority to release the right of reverter reacquisition, if you will, on a property they acquired from us some years ago, now that their use of the property is complete.
Any questions? No questions? Can I get a motion?
Motion move.
Can I get a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We're now on number 27. Good evening, Ms. Knight. Authorizing the cancellation and chargeback of unenforceable delinquent real property tax liens on 344 South Pearl Street and 89 North Swan Street in the city of Albany.
Yes, 344 South Pearl and 89 North Swan both have pilot agreements that are 30-year agreements. They began early in 2005, so there should never have been a tax bill produced for these properties. They should have been in the wholly exempt portion of the roll due to clerical error. They received tax bills dating back to 2014, so we did a resolution to correct, to cancel those taxes, and we'll charge them back in the levy.
Who owns the property?
They are 344 South Pearl Street is South End Associates Housing Development Fund Corp. And 89 North Swan Street is the Swan Street Housing Development Fund Corp.
And so, chargeback, what's unenforceable then in relation to these people?
So we can't collect them. So there should not have been, it was an unlawful entry to begin with, so it never should have appeared on the assessment roll. So we don't have any authority to collect it because it really should have never been there. They're paying their pilot payments in lieu of the taxes.
Okay. Any questions? Can I get a motion? Can I get a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now, number 28. Authorizing a correction to the tax roll for the cities of Albany and Waterloo and the towns of Bern, Queens, Colony, and Rensselaerville.
So in the end of December 28th, 2018, legislation was passed that exempts land bank owned properties upon acquisition. So when they acquire title, they no longer have to pay their tax bills are exempt. These tax bills came out January 1st, so there was a very short period of time. We could not get them exempt on the rolls within days because the property tax roll was out January 1st, 2019. So this is canceling those taxes per the legislation.
Question? Motion? I got a motion, can I get a second? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now, okay, number 29, we're gonna have, Brandon speak on this, please.
All right, this is authorized distribution of mortgage taxes for the period of October through March 31st, 2019. Pursuant to the mortgage tax that Albany County has, When we collect it, a portion of it is distributed back to the municipalities. We've received a letter from the clerk's office asking for this distribution to be authorized, and that's basically it.
Any questions? I get a motion.
Motion move.
I got a motion, I got a second? Okay, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. All right, number 29, no, I'm sorry, number 30. And I recognize Council Canzero.
So for this, for the members of the committee, last month we authorized the conveyance of 543 North Pearl, which involves St. Catharines. Subsequent to its passage in the full legislative meeting, we engaged in some conversations with the county attorney, members of the county attorney's office, property division. In order to make them feel a little more comfortable, they wanted the addition of one more resolve clause that, arguably is redundant, but we agree that it's something that can shore up what we're doing, so it's a technical change to the resolution.
Yes. Thank you.
Mike, did I sum it up?
Perfect.
All those in favor? Let's
Okay,
move it.
so I got a motion and I got a second. I'll second it. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very good. Let's see. We
Yeah,
have,
so we have two handouts, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Okay, so we have two items that, because of timing purposes, are not able to be added to the written agenda. These are the capital plan for 2020 and 2024. We received them from Commissioner Phelan, who's over there, right before yesterday, I believe it was. And so in order to meet under the charter, we need to approve the capital plan by September 1st. This is in order, so we have the public hearing, which is item 31, which is the first item, and then the capital plan itself, which is the table. Anything else? So 31 is the first item, that's the public hearing of the capital plan. This will be on July 23rd.
Oh, it's the same backup. Yeah, both backups are identical. Both backups are identical.
Both backups are identical. There's one backup for both of them. It's the first item, under the requirements of our charter, we need to do a public hearing in July. There's a 2-week notice lead time under our charter requirements, Article 6. So the first thing we're doing is item 31, same backup for both of them, passing out the public hearing on the capital plan so that we can get the process started and have the public hearing on July 23rd, and then from there, we will ultimately pass the capital plan the next month. And Sean wants to add anything?
No, I appreciate making every concerted effort to putting this on as early as possible. I did not expect such a good turnaround on that. I appreciate everyone involved in getting that done.
Ms. Burko.
Is this the first time people are actually seeing an updated capital plan?
Well, there's a capital committee that meets in June generally, that takes responses from departments. We tally them together with management and budget and review them at that meeting.
Is this the first time the legislature is seeing the product?
This is presented on June 25th, so we delivered yesterday.
Okay. Is there any anticipation that there would be some briefing of the legislature before the public hearing?
We certainly can do
As
that,
to what is new?
Yes.
What has been added to the plan, what's fallen off the plan? I know that there had been interest in capital planning, facilities, inventories, and I know there's some work that's supposed to happen in preparation of the budget. But I think there are probably some folks who would like to know how this has changed, what new projects are on the horizon, before a public hearing where the public is going to come, and probably, if history is any guide, there will be zero public comment.
Right. That does happen. But
Let me just, it was televised, so that tape exists of the capital planning committee meeting if anyone's interested.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Higgins?
I was just gonna ask if there was an executive summary of this. Going through it, I see there's little, each one's an individual project.
We certainly can bullet something for you and deliver it over. Yeah.
I think that'd be helpful.
Particularly the changes, Sean, there were some changes that
Yeah.
we made.
Are you on this?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I'll move it out the public hearing.
I got a motion, can I get a second? I got a second, Mr. Clegg, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? There we go.
And then number 32, which is also, it's one handout, that has to be tabled, but Sean just explained it. That's the actual adoption of the capital, the 2020-2024 capital plan that has to wait for the public hearing. Sean, I don't know if you want to say anything else on that.
Okay, so we're gonna.
So this will be tabled.
All right, so we're gonna table this. Okay, all right, so now we're going back to, previous business number 1. And right now, 1 through 4 are tabled at the request of the sponsor.
Okay.
All right? All right, so now we are on number 5. Authorizing, resolution number 204, authorizing the conveyance of real property located at 171 Choice Connection Road in the town of Howland.
Madam Chair, thank you. Apologies for missing last month's meeting. I'm back and severely sleep deprived, but I was told that there were many questions about this item, which led to its tabling, and so I'm here to answer any of those questions if they may exist.
All right, first I'm gonna ask, do I have any questions of the members? Okay,
Oh, was this the one?
car wash.
Car wash. I was curious, and I asked the question, do we know what the potential owner is going to use it for as a beneficial use, and whether or not it's consistent with the zoning in the town, or whether or not there have been any discussions with the town?
No, there's no exploration of town, local jurisdiction related to code, zoning, or any of that. This item doesn't ask for us to send it to any particular individual. It asks us to send it to the land bank for public offering. The request letters that the county executive's office have, of which I believe there's 2, have already been forwarded to the land bank in anticipation of their receiving it, running a public bid, notifying those 2 interested bidders of its offering so that they can process it in an open, transparent manner.
So the game plan is still to transfer the parcel to the land bank?
That is our desire, yes.
And the land bank will make decisions on the ultimate disposition between the 2 parties that are both interested in it?
Well, so the land bank will run a public, it can be anybody.
Okay.
It would be no different, I mean, that's the purpose of the creation of the land bank, is we used to run public auctions, anybody could come. Then we created a land bank, anybody can go to the land bank. Our office is in a compromised position because we have 2 offers that are within relative close proximity to each other, and we don't feel comfortable making a decision as to awarding to one or the other because we don't have a way of saying, is this your highest and best offer? So, while also opening it up to anybody else in the general public who rightfully should have the opportunity, as we believe, was running, whether it be the former live auctions, the sealed bid auctions, which we're bringing back as per request of the disposition plan, and the land bank. Those are mechanisms through which the general public can acquire a property in an open and transparent manner, and that's generally speaking what we're trying to do here because we had 2 competing offers. And that's also, by the way, been the way that we've, since the creation of the land bank, that we've dealt with these sort of situations.
One of the issues that I have, whenever there is something that comes in front of us you know, we go back and forth with this type of, these type of resolutions. In regards to this time we're going to give to the land bank, next time we're going to, you know, allow somebody to bid on it and get the property. I prefer myself to speak to make sure that the legislator where this property lies in their district, I would like to make sure that they have some input and also understanding of what's going on with this. So I really don't want to pass it out tonight without speaking. I understand this is Mayo's district. So I would like for him to have an opportunity to, you know, weigh in on this.
So that's perfectly fine. I will say that whenever the county is directly transferring a property to a private receiver, we always notify the legislator. This property we're proposing to transfer to the legislature, the land bank, typically we transfer lists of properties. So this is somewhat unique in the sense that it's one property. So, and as far as that's the case, if we're transferring lists of properties, it's not, we simply notify the legislature of the list of properties so that all legislators can see which properties in their districts would be transferred. That's kind of the notification. That's the only reason that we didn't have a specific conversation. I understand your point of view that you'd like his input, that's fine.
Yes, Mr. Berto.
I'm entirely consistent with that, but I, upon hearing what it is they want to do, I like the idea of the land bank being able to negotiate the highest and best use, the best compensation. And I know in my discussions with Mr. Zafranco, he said that he works with the local government and he considers the local government to be the stakeholder. So they're going to have some input on what the highest and best use and taxable value would be as well. So if we can't do that from the county, it seems like that's a laudable goal for the land bank. So sounds like something that I would ultimately support.
Well, right now, what I would like to do, because this has caused and conversations that I really would like to hear, and this is the way I want to operate. I think that the legislator has a responsibility, not only to the rest of the county, but his constituency too, but also to weigh in on something that is going to affect his district. Yes.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem tabling this at the chair's request, but by next month, when this comes back, if they have not done so, then I would like to proceed, just,
Yeah.
you know, I get it, I think that's perfectly fine, but if they're not, for whatever reason,
Right.
engaging, that's on them.
But at this point too, the other thing is that I am requesting, just so that everyone knows, when resolutions come before us, where a legislator is in their district from now on, they will be notified. And if they do not respond, okay, we will know that they decided not to. So that way it gives everyone a fair understanding of what's going on in their district. So we don't get into clashes, whether it's in the caucus or on the floor, where we know everyone has been notified. Okay? So I want a motion to table.
I second the
Can I
motion.
get a second? Okay, all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Where do we at now? Numbers, okay. All right, we're gonna go to, okay, let's do it now. All right, so we're going to start with number 6. I'm gonna recognize the chair.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the Audit and Finance Committee. I'm here tonight to withdraw resolution number 210. The original intent of 210 was to create some environmental friendly solutions for Albany County in every day things that we do. I think we figured out a way to make a bigger impact and not do it through our contingent fund. So I'm going to formally request that we withdraw resolution number 210. And I also wanted to kind of frame the discussion overall on the use of contingent account. As I've said in the past, the use of the contingent account born out of the budget process for 2019 We wanted to give every member input into the budget, whether it be through projects in their districts or districts in and around Albany County. What are the best uses for what contingent account is for, and what are the good ideas? And so some of the individual resolutions that we see in here are a product of that process, are a product of the application that was done. It's a public process. It's, you know, each individual resolution that was put forth is an individual idea. I think one of the mistakes we made initially was we kind of packaged everything at once in 118N. So now what we want to do is we want to break everything off and have each idea, you know, stand on its own merit. The discussion on the whole contingent account use process, we had three main arguments against spending out of contingent. Number one, we don't have the money. Number two, that it's not budgeted. And then number three, that it's pork. You know, there are members that try to conflate, you know, the use of contingent funds with grants, which is completely irresponsible and dishonest, and a number of other issues come along with that. Two completely different arguments. So the first argument that you're going to hear is that we don't have the money to spend out of the contingent fund, which is completely not true. Our fund balance grew by $3 million in 2018 to $49.3 million. That's 8.6% of our general fund right now. Our sales tax revenue is running ahead of the budget, which was a 3.2% increase in 2019 versus what we projected for, which was 1.8 increase. Bob Belver from the Times Union Center said last Thursday the TU Center is running $1 million ahead of our budget. Sheriff stated recently that he is not worried about making his budget in 2019. And we're hearing a lot now about the CDY-CI issues, and those are something we're going to be looking at in 2020, not in 2019. On the capital plan side, we may not need to spend the $6.2 million we originally budgeted in 2019 to fix that facility. Also, the argument that we saw in the press that it's not budgeted. It is. Everyone on our body voted on the budget, and they voted yes with the exception of Mr. Mendick. We've voted on similar amendments and uses of the contingent fund 16 times since 2010, including in 2018 for Granicus, 2017 for the Rockefeller Institute Shared Services Plan, and a Hilltown's mobile billboard, and other uses. Those are all available. If anybody has any questions about those, wants to see those, some of the interesting things that we've spent contingent, you know, amount money on in the past, they can see that. And then the other argument is that it's pork. And it doesn't fit the criteria of pork as established by the Citizens Against Government Waste, which is a national watchdog group. It is also not a member item, because each of these resolutions are separate budget amendments, debated and argued in the light of day, and doesn't benefit a single member. I'll take example for the Center for Disability. It doesn't benefit Joe O'Brien, it doesn't benefit one legislator, it doesn't benefit one district. There are children from all over Albany County that go to the Center for Disability Services, you know, to learn, and they need all the tools necessarily to do so. So it's not a cash infusion into one member's district or for one member. So it does not fit that criteria, and it is not pork, and it is not a member item. What I hope, you know, for moving forward, is that we discuss each of these on their own merit, and if there's a member that is advocating for any one of these resolutions, any one of these ideas, that they'll do so. And it may be uncomfortable for some folks, but I think we need to look at every one of these on their merit and just make a decision, yes or no, whether or not we want to spend this money. That's kind of wanted to frame the argument for you folks, but otherwise I just wanted to withdraw Resolution 210. We'll come back with something later. We don't use contingent account funding for it.
Thank you, Chairman.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah. Yes, Madam Chair, I appreciate the chairman's point of view, but there's a different point of view here. Why do we have a budget process? We have a budget process because we have 1,000 items that want money, and we have to figure out what our revenue is. We combine them, we hash it out, we have 8 meetings in October to hash it out, then ultimately we vote. That's not what this is. This is additional, this money was in the budget, you're correct. But all the line items that are listed here were not submitted in the budget, and therefore they were not reviewed, they were not scrutinized, they were not debated, as we debated over every other item in the budget.
Well, that's what we're doing now.
Well, but the whole point is...
The budget process is a year-long process.
Yeah, but not in the context of all, these should have been submitted, because they're not emergency funding. They should have been submitted during the process, and we should have been able to debate them with everybody else. This is special treatment that we're talking about here. Special treatment, and it's not fair treatment.
And Mr. Grimm, how is this any different from what you just voted yes on for use for SOPOS and antivirus for IT?
Because this was, these...
That wasn't budgeted.
Well, are you saying, well, the IT, by the way, was, according to our budget folks, was something we wanted to do with as an emergency because there was an IT problem. I'm not saying you can't bring up an emergency item as a contingency. I'm for contingency budgets, but this is turned, this contingency budget is not a contingency budget, it's turned into a member item budget. I totally disagree with you that these are not member items. They are items presented by members. That makes them member items. And therefore, are we going to go into this new area where we have a $75,000 member item fund, which is split among all the members?
That's for grants, that's not the contingent.
Well,
See,
these are...
you're conflating grants and contingent again, and you're very confused, and...
I'm not confused at all.
How you're on this committee, you can't make that
These are two
differentiation.
members.
It's very,
Call the table back to order.
Okay.
very
All right, so let me make a
troubling.
statement. The chairman has withdrawn resolution number 210. We are now going to move forward with taking each resolution one at a time, and the discussion will begin on that, and we will vote up or down in regards to that, okay?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. All right, so now we're going to go to number 7, resolution 211, and who is going to speak on that? Okay, so amending the 2019 Norman County budget contingent account adjustment to create recreational opportunities for children.
I just want to pass out a supplemental handout. The reason why we need this money is we have a large concentration of young people in the city of Albany, and we also have a continuing plague of gun violence and gang interaction. What I'm passing out is 3 shootings that happened between Sunday and Monday in my district. And the other thing to understand is that the lower legislative districts 1 through 6 physically are basically one geographic area in less than an 8-mile radius. You know, for purposes of administration, we've divided the area. But the personnel, the people who live there, suffer from the same kind of economic challenges. And one of my concerns is we have a large number of youth-related programs in Colony, but we have a large concentration of young people in Albany. And it just makes sense that young people in Albany shouldn't have to go to Colony for recreational services when the bulk of them are here in Albany, and we have this tremendous issue of violence. This Monday, we had both a memorial in Crank Park for Elijah Cancer, who was shot a week after we had an anti-gun violence march through my district. And at the same time, the chief of police had a public forum at the library dealing with community interaction between the police and the community. We have a real plague of violence in a very small city of Albany with a very large concentration of violent activity. And one of the solutions to that is to have meaningful activity for young people. Apropos of that, I'm proposing that we dedicate funds to the youth of Albany such that they don't have to go to Colony for alternative activity.
I think this is a great idea. We should move this out with a positive recommendation. I vote aye.
I'd second the motion.
Okay. Okay, I got a question. Where's the money going?
It's going to be used through the county.
No. It's going to, okay, do we know how it's going to be set up? That's my question.
Well, it's going to be set up for programs that historically have existed and existed in Colony. For example, our karate program, the various boxing programs. We also have a correlated effort to have youth baseball, but this amount of money is not going to go very far. It's not a large amount of money for the large number of young people that we have in the area. So, I mean, I think this is just an effort to address a crisis situation.
Okay. All right, so I got a motion.
I have a second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Want discussion, Madam Chair? Yeah.
There's a motion on the floor, we should address that, right, Chris? Instead of going to another rant rave from Mr. Grimm?
Well, there should be discussion on the motion, Madam Chair, and I'd like to discuss it.
Okay, I'll allow that, and then we're going to.
But is he gonna discuss on every grant, or can he, never mind, go ahead.
It certainly is any member's prerogative to discuss
Please,
every
Mr. Graham,
grant.
continue.
Yeah, are all these funds targeted for the city of Albany?
Yes.
Let's hope so.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I hope so. Well, so
Yes.
they're not
Yes.
going to any other part of the county?
The department is countywide, it's just not run in the city of Albany. You're talking about the Department of Recreation, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well-
They're already offering programs across the county except for the city of Albany.
Right.
So he's
right.
trying to expand it to the city of
And we're
Albany.
not saying that any program that's located in the city of Albany wouldn't be accessible by anybody else. What we're saying is, we don't have appropriate allocations of programs in the area where we have the densest population of young people. So in other words, no program in Albany would exclude any young residents of the county of Albany. No, that wouldn't be the problem.
I agree.
Why wouldn't you submit something like this during the budget process?
Well, I would argue that, I agree with you that in the future, that would be a much better allocation, but right now, we have to address the situation of children dying on a weekly basis in our community, and so I consider this kind of a triage situation of a great magnitude.
And I agree with you also. All right, so.
I do agree that the need is greater than the targeting that we're doing now. So I do agree that in the future, we need to take a better look at the budget because there are much greater needs than we can address by this amount of money. I agree with that.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to entertain the motion in a second now. Our motion in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
I have two opposed. Mr. Mendick and Chris. That's number 7.
Oh, excuse me, sorry, Mike.
Okay. All right, number 8. All right, so resolution number 212, amending the 2019 Albany County budget contingent account adjustment to create learning opportunities for disabled children.
As the chairman originally said in his presentation, that this is based Albany County-wide. It's just not in my district. It's throughout the county. This is equipment that will help disabled children to learn and participate in programs at the Clover Patch Center located on South Manning Boulevard. And we met with the CEO of the organization, and he proposed to use the money in this regard. So.
Are there any questions? Mr. Berger?
No, I'm supporting this grant as well. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the Center for the Disabled and the programs that they run. And I have a number of personal friends who have handicapped children who have benefited by the Center for the Disabled's activity. I understand they have had some catastrophes hit them, and this is going to help them make up for some of those issues and get them back on their feet again for this program, so I'm going to support it.
Mr. Joyce?
This is just educational materials and not for new salary or anything, correct?
That's correct, just for...
And they know this isn't a recurring...
That's correct. This is one-time deal.
Some of it is actually rebuilding some
broken material
that were destroyed.
Motion to move it.
Mr. Mendick?
I had my question answered, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ward?
I'm not on the committee, but I noticed on these resolutions, there's no vendors listed at all. There are no vendors listed. Is that something that we're going to have a contract for services after, or?
I mean, anything bought through a budget line for products, for services, have to have some sort of procurement if there's a county organization involved in using it or implementing it, just from our procurement policy.
And because of the dollar amounts, did that go through CAB? I'm just asking.
For this...
And I'm in favor of this.
Mr. O'Brien's is 75, I believe.
Yeah.
It's 75,000, so it would go through CAB.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure we have a process.
If it is that, if it was up to that, anything from 20,000, in between 20 and 100,000 goes to CAB.
Mr. Phelan?
That is completely correct, that's all I just wanted to make sure.
Mr. Berger?
On this point, I think it's fair to say that in the infancy of the development of this program, that the chairman's office had discussions with the county executive's office on potential beneficiaries, and that obviously this is all contingent upon the county executive implementing it, actually, because for example, monies that go to the Department of the Aging that don't have a name on it, where do they go? It's up to the county exec to implement it for that purpose. So
That's correct.
this is not going to happen without the acquiescence of the executive. And I think that's a second check on the meritorious nature of the project. So we may be putting a name on it and a face on it because that's what our intention is, but we're relying upon the goodwill of the county executive's office to implement it.
There may be one.
Correct.
One
Is that
coming
fair?
on the street.
One more question on the next, I'm moving on to the next resolution, but I'm moving on to the next resolution.
Okay, we
which
haven't
is
moved on this.
Well, it's the same premise, though. It's the next resolution is over $100,000. Is that contract coming back to us? A separate contract, I guess.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Phelan is shaking his head, so.
I would wait, let council answer this here directly because it depends
so
on the
this-
writing and the wording.
The next resolution, which is 213, deals with $250,000 directly to the land bank. That would be a straight transfer. There is no contract. So if you authorize 9, you're giving $250,000 to the land bank. There is no,
But there's
this is the oversight.
It's not stated in the resolution.
It's, that there's no coming back to us, no, it's not, but that's in effect what would happen.
Well,
Stated in the back. Can we just,
So let's
stay on track here?
I would like to finish number 8, and then we'll move on to number 9 and entertain your, okay. All right, so, Mr. Clay, did you make a motion?
Yes.
Yes. Can I have a second? Can I have a second? I got a motion and I got a second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? None. Okay.
No opposed to that?
Okay, so now we're on, Mr. Ward, to number 9, resolution amending 2019 Albany County budget, contingent account adjustment for housing, rehabilitation, and blight prevention. And, Mr. Higgins?
Sure, this is appropriation of $250,000 to the land bank. Why this is incredibly important and critical is that this is a dollar-for-dollar match of funding from the Community Loan Fund in the Capital Region here. So by transferring this money to the land bank, we're going to draw down, they will draw down an additional $250,000 from that organization. So it's really a $500,000 pot of money that they're going to utilize. And some of the stuff they're going to use it for is to create rehabilitation plans for properties throughout Albany County to facilitate the return of properties to tax rolls while allowing more residents to purchase properties. Improvements to properties located in areas where Attorney General grant funding cannot be applied to assist more residents throughout the county. An expansion of the Equitable Opportunities Program to every municipality within Albany County. So that will arguably benefit those seeking to buy land bank rehabilitated properties countywide. So that is the gist of it, and that's why I think it's incredibly important that we do this so that we can draw down this additional $250,000. It's not every day that we have an opportunity like that, and that's why Legislator Fine and myself have advanced this proposal.
First, Mr. Minnick.
Mr. Higgins, is there a time limit on this, this matching funds?
Not in the documentation that I was provided.
I mean, and where I'm going with this is that this is exactly the kind of item that should appear in the budget. But if there is a time limitation, I can appreciate that we need to take on to that a little bit sooner than the budget process.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Mendick, to your point, to help alleviate your concerns, if you'd like to add an additional resolve that transfer the funding is contingent on the match from the community loan fund, I would be open to that, to do that,
Well, we know that will happen. All I'm suggesting is that, and a lot of these items, as Mr. Grimm pointed out, a lot of these items should have happened in the budget process.
Sure.
We are now sitting in June, we are close to the budget process again, and all I'm trying to get a handle on is if we would put this off until the 2020 budget process, will we still be able to make ourselves available to that match?
The short answer of it is, my information is several months old, so I don't know. I thought we were gonna do this a few months ago.
Sure, I can appreciate that.
I would say to your point about the broader budget context, I go to all these meetings like you and the other members that want to finance, and I think I've been one of the strongest advocates for the work that the land bank has been and continues to do in the county. We have the most successful land bank in the state of New York. That's, I think, widely known throughout the state, And this is just a significant opportunity to draw down additional grant funding that's made itself available.
But Mr. Higgins, I'm sure you appreciate, you've been around as long as I have,
Sure.
in that when we first talked about the land bank, we said, there will be no taxpayer dollars going to the land bank. It will be self-funding.
Well, that was the idea down the line. I don't think any
appreciate
land
that.
bank is at that point yet.
We are, not getting anywhere close to that point. In fact, what it looks like is that we are adding more and more dollars to the process.
Well, that's my that's my proposal. I think it's unique because it's a match.
Yeah, understood. Sure. Thank you.
And Chris, to your point, is
Mr. O'Brien.
this money, we received money on a land transfer on Broadway last year, didn't we?
Yes, I think we put into contingency from that land transfer for that property over $185,000.
So
And the idea at the time, when we passed that amendment, which I sponsored on the floor, was to move that money into contingency to be used for a purpose such as this. That's an excellent point that I totally forgot about.
I just wanted to bring that to
But
you.
you're right, we did recoup funding from that sale.
Yes, Mr. Crowley.
Madam Chair, thank you. The land bank's an important entity because we want to bring back blighted properties, and that's why it was created. But it also has to be self-sustaining at some point. The question is, what is the Albany County's commitment to the land bank on a year-to-year basis? This is, by the way, why this should be taken up during the budget process. In fact, we had a very robust debate about this during the budget process. Members weighed in on it, and we came to a compromise that we would spend $250,000. People are speaking out and say we should support the land bank. We do. We supported them with a $250,000 payment already. Now, secondly, the land bank has a budget of just $2.6 million, but it just won a $2 million grant from the State Attorney General's
There's
office.
restrictions on how that funding can be used. I think that's very strict restrictions before the money can be released.
It's still real money. It's $2 million. They got $300,000 of it already, and they're going to get the rest of the money by the end of 2020. So the question is, how are we going to sustain funding for the land bank in a sensible way that also protects the taxpayers' interest? I think that's what the budget discussion was about. We had a lot of different points of view on that, and we agreed that $250,000 was the right number. And this is exactly why these items should be raised during the budget process.
Sure, but, there's a unique circumstance here where there is a match available, and that's why we're pushing, right?
Well-
So that's new information that's come to light after we enacted the budget.
But you haven't said that wouldn't, if we put it into this year's budget, you haven't said that wouldn't happen as well, because I think it probably would.
Mr. Mendick.
Mr. Higgins, would it make sense for us to give you the $250 now and not do an additional funding in our 2020 budget for the same amount? You get your extra $250.
Sure, I mean,
But we kind of stay where we're at.
I think, Mr. Mendick, the issue there is that it's the county executive who submits the budget to us. and
Understood.
We can,
We also make amendments to it.
Yeah, we can amend.
So, sure. And so, I mean, that is something that we should consider. Look, I get where you're going with it. I can appreciate it. Look, if I had my druthers, and everybody knows this, I would have given more money to the land bank. That was what I argued for last year, and the year before, and the year before, right? Every year I make I advocate for this program, so.
That's why it took so long to get it approved.
No, Chris, you
But
more than
no, I
anybody.
understand your
Yeah.
point, and look, if this goes through and there's a match, then, that's something that we can certainly discuss within the context of the budget.
And delay,
Okay,
not only,
gentlemen,
not
Mr.
only,
O'Brien?
yeah, not only delaying it, the property deteriorates even
Well,
further.
that's another issue,
If roofs collapse, weight of snow is, so, I think moving it now, we give an opportunity to
Okay.
get it done.
I think it's just about time to take a vote on this, but I would like to make a comment.
Sure.
The land bank is, from what I understand, really supposed to be self-sufficient, okay? And I thought that's why it was created. Also, there are issues with the land bank in which certain constituencies believe that the ones that are actually getting the properties, it's not creating real homeowners. And it's a huge issue. I mean, this whole season, I have had to listen to that over and over and over again. I do believe in what the land bank is supposed to do in regards to the people. And so, with that said though, I will support this. But at the same time, I think there needs to be the land bank and the way in which we offer or decide on how much we're going to give and what that money's supposed to do and so forth. We really need to review that, okay, and really come to some real, as far as I'm concerned, conclusion on whether the land bank is doing what it's supposed to. Because I keep hearing all of this $2.5 million and so forth and so on being thrown at the land bank as far as funding is concerned. I want some kind of report that indicates that they are moving towards self-sufficiency, so they don't have to keep coming back to us asking for funds. But right now, I do support what you have here, and I'd like a motion.
I'll motion.
Second.
Can I get a second? All right, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Opposed. Okay, thank you. All right, so now, we're on number 10. Resolution number 214, amending the 2019 Albany County Budget Contingent Account Adjustment to reduce recidivism by supporting jail transition program.
So this is this would restore...
Chair recognizes Mr. Fine.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This program, this would restore funding for a program that has been in previous budgets, I believe, every year for the past, I don't know how many years. I believe it's been in the budget every year for the past...
What's every year? 1 year, 2 years?
My understanding was it was 10 years or so. I mean, I believe the county's been funding this program for a long time, but I could be wrong.
Just the jail transition?
Yeah.
I disagree with you a little bit.
But anyways, this program's restoring funding regardless of how many. It's been in the budget in previous years. It was removed from the budget this year. Trinity Alliance works with inmates at the jail, both in the jail and when they get out of jail, helps them adjust to life outside jail, which is a tough thing to do, helps them find employment, housing, very difficult. Very difficult things and people that really need a lot of assistance. Want to add that similar to the previous resolution we voted on, Trinity Alliance actually recently got a state grant for, I think it's about $85,000 to really intensify this program. And if they don't get this funding restored, they would likely have to cut back on this program and they'd be at risk of losing that state funding. So by funding them with this $46,500 for this program, we're actually ensuring that Trinity Alliance continues to get that additional state funding.
Okay, so now, just so that we're clear on this, isn't this for a position?
This is for, well, they would have to cut a position. They might have to actually they would likely have to cut the entire program if we don't restore this funding.
But wasn't this in the budget as a position?
No, this was it's just, the budget line item is just called Jail Transition Program.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought it was for a position.
In a way, it is in a way because the funding mostly funds a position, so
Yes, it is for a position. It's to fund a transition
Yeah,
coordinator.
Yes, an existing position, yes.
Right, okay. Mr. Joyce?
No, that answered my question. So what are they gonna do next year?
Well, I think they'd hope that this has been in this line item in past years, and I think they'd hope that that would be in the budget for the next year. It was in the budget last year, it was left out this year. So, I think we'd have to ask Trinity Alliance that, but I think they'd hope that we wouldn't have to go through this process and the program would continue to be funded in the regular budget process.
Okay, I'm going to allow Ms. Lukakis.
I think they also would be open to providing a report about, the activities that this person does or how many people are served who come out of the transitional program by that. That's at least what the executive director of Trinity told me, so.
Mr. Higgins?
I would just note too, for everybody, we were all at the meeting, we had a very robust public comment where I would say like 30 people came in and talked about all these different applications and how this money would be utilized by the respective organizations. And I found that to be very compelling at the time. And the individual, the gentleman who came in to speak about this one, I think this is a great program.
I think, Mr. Grimm?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. My understanding was it's been in the budget, Sam, but the sheriff didn't put it into the budget this year. Am I correct about that?
Correct.
And when I asked him about that, he felt it wasn't an effective program. So why should we vote for something that the sheriff feels wasn't effective?
I'm not sure exactly why it wasn't included in the budget.
Well, I mean, that was his explanation.
Yeah, I mean, we've had discussions with Trinity Alliance, we've seen information, we heard at our public hearing from Andre Morris, the employee who actually runs this program, and they work with 110 individuals on a one-to-one basis. I think it is an effective program. It's a difficult population to work with. You're not able to help everyone, but if you help, this is $46,500. If you help maybe 2 people go back to end up, help 2 people and they don't end up going back to jail because we know that there's high recidivism rates, it's actually probably worth it from an economic standpoint because, what is it, $60,000 a year to put someone in jail? So.
I believe in, fighting repeat offenders. The question is effectiveness. I mean, that's really.
And I think, as Lynn said, I think Trinity Alliance is open and committed to ensuring that we have the data so we can evaluate this program every year, because I think it is reasonable that we hold all the money we're spending. We do have to make sure that it's worth it.
If I could say, then we're going to close this out. It is my understanding that when the reentry program came into Albany County, okay, under Breslин's administration, okay, we really went through a real strenuous process as far as all the stakeholders were concerned and what the reentry program was supposed to accomplish. And I think that we're very fortunate to have to continue these types of services. However, okay, I think in this instance right here, this position is also aligned with some other monies that Trinity received. So these 2 programs are supposed to come together, I believe, with that other money that they receive from the state. So they're to bolster the program that Trinity is supposed to provide to people who are trying to re-enter, okay? I don't think it's a problem that, putting this money back in, because we did promise that we were going to do this at the end of the budget cycle I'm saying last year. I don't know where we are now. Whenever we passed the budget, we did say that we were going to do this, right? So I would like to take a motion on this. I'm going to take 2 more comments and then we're going to move. Yes?
Motion. Well, I just want to point out that I think this falls also under the same category as some of these other ones, where ultimately the sheriff is going to have to come back and negotiate a contract with Trinity. It's not just going to happen. And the sheriff has the ability to put any kind of deliverables or benchmarks or reporting criteria in it as a condition of that contract. So ultimately, you're not going to end up with a grant to this organization that the sheriff hasn't signed off on or been involved in negotiating. So on that basis, I'm comfortable that the sheriff will filter it in such a way so that it is beneficial and well-managed.
Yeah, in my conversations with him, he also did say that he would support, excuse me, he would support this. Okay, so, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Can I get a second? I got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Ray, did you have something you want to say?
No, I just voted in
okay,
favor.
very good. I got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Opposed. I have, I missed amended. All right, what number are we on? And number 11 is tabled. And now we're on. Okay. All right, we're on.
We're not gonna do our, if you wanna go out of order.
Tabled.
Oh, because they're not here.
I would like,
I realize.
I would like to finish the contingency, if you don't mind, Mr. Commissioner. Okay, all right, thank you. Resolution number 221, amended to 2019 Albany County Budget Contingent Account Adjustment.
We can do it off the floor after.
Who's on the move?
Thank you. Hopefully last but not forgotten. We submitted some backup material for the packets, and for whatever reason, they never made it there. I can hand it out, or I can actually describe it and give you a sense as to what's going on here. As you know, the town of Colony has 38% of the county's senior citizens. 38%. I mean, we're a community of 84,000 people. We're very close to the population of the city. And one of the things, you know, what we've been doing here tonight is we've been helping frail individuals. But what I want to tell you, this program is about Colony Senior Service Centers Incorporated, is they provide transportation to frail individuals. I am on their advisory panel, as is Joe, for the transportation. In 2018, they provided 22,511 trips for seniors. And it's not just from the town of Colony. I actually have a sheet here, 8,000 from Albany, 3,400 from Colony, 6,400 from Latham, 382 from Waterville, 109 from Guilderland, 830 from Cohoes. These are trips for seniors to and from doctor's appointments, various tasks. These are homebound people or people who live in apartments. It could be as simple as getting grocery shopping. But that's the program, and that's the magnitude of it. It's 22,500 people. I'll wrap it up quickly. This $50,000 grant is going to allow Colony Senior Services to leverage $130,000 in grant money. There's the state, New York State DOT 5310 program, where if you put in 20%, the state will match it with 80%. This will allow them to actually purchase 2 new handicapped accessible senior transportation vans, the ones that are large enough to do their daily runs, and 1 van, a standard non-handicapped passenger van. They have 13 vehicles. They're in various states of disrepair, and there's a holistic effort to try to figure out how to re-energize the funding for the program. But this would be a huge shot in the arm for the frail senior population of not just Colony, but also our neighboring communities.
Mr. Joyce?
Are these replacing existing vans or are these new vans?
These will be replacing existing vans. Some of them have 250,000 miles on it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Higgins?
I would just say this is exactly what we should be doing, is using county's money to draw down additional state and federal aid, through these programs. Great job, Mr. Bergdorf, Mr. Frank, coming up with this application. Motion.
You got a motion, can I get a second? I got a second, my motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, unanimous. All right, now on to number 13. 12, sorry. Resolution 217, amending the rules and regulations for Albany County employees regarding health insurance benefits for retirees, and I just want to preface this with the fact that personnel has passed this out favorably. All right, Mr. Camiso?
We have a handout, which is, the only difference is additional sponsors that were recently added for the members' knowledge. Also, Mr. Touche was just added personnel, which, and Ms. Willingham just asked to be added.
And I was added
And
as
Mr.
well.
O'Brien, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair.
Nick's coming.
I'm here tonight to move this proposal forward, and I would appreciate the committee's support. To note, we have 12 current co-sponsors as of this evening, including the chairman and the majority leader. We have been working closely with the county executive's office to make sure all concerns are taken into account and their responses are in the backup. This is a resolution to help both the County of Albany at large and various departments by ensuring that our benefits package is competitive with both the state and surrounding municipalities. In passing this, we will be taking a major step forward in making sure that we are able to retain valuable employees who have continued to do great work for the people of Albany County. I have some review of the concerns that were raised by several members of the committee and would like to note the following. First, according to the 2016 annual financial report of employee benefits that our own controller's office did in compliance with GASB, historically, the average age of retirement for Albany County employees is well over 62 years of age. Significantly, the vast majority of our employees, based on their date of hire, are under Tier 4 of the New York State local retirement system. Under Tier 4 structure, those employees would take a major hit to their state pension if they decided to retire before age 62, just to get health care benefits. So the idea that people under age 62 would be retiring, if we pass this, is not rooted in rational fact. Second, our employee rules and regulations apply to non-union employees. There are less than 350 non-union employees in the county, and much fewer who would fall into a category of having 15 years of credited service. While unions may want this eventually, it will be a few years at least before CBAs can be renegotiated. Therefore, initially, we are talking about a small group this affects. This is a common sense measure that will make us competitive and offer non-salary incentives to retain employees. I hope you will join me in supporting this, and I will ask it move forward with a positive recommendation. Thank you.
Mr. Mendy.
As I brought up in the last time we talked about this last month, in the audited financial statements of the Albany County, there's a number that they put out there, which is the value of the cost for future health care cost. I think it goes out 30 years. At this point, that number is over $500 million. It's approaching $1 billion. What we're talking about now will only exacerbate that problem and make it more. We have to understand that that's a cost that we may not have to bear now, but our children and our grandchildren certainly will as taxpayers of Albany County. Second of all, I keep hearing about that we are not competitive or we need to be more competitive, yet I have yet to hear anyone tell me what it is at the state, what it is in Bethlehem, what it is in Colony. Before we really we vote on this, I think we ought to have a list. Somebody should do a survey to find out what we're really talking about as far as the competitive nature of this. Because there's one issue that has not really been discussed, and that is the more money you put into benefits, the less money you're going to be able to put into salaries. And we hear time and time and time again, department heads who come here and say, geez, you know, we are so far under a competitive salary in this area, and it's tough for us to recruit. We saw in personnel, we had the sheriff, we had, you know, the nursing home, and the list goes on and on and on. So I appreciate, we would like to give as much as we can to all employees, but there's a cost to that, and we have to pick our battles. And whether we're going to put monies in salaries or put it in a benefit package that moves it from 20 years to 15 years for healthcare, and if you're looking at that as a recruiting tool, I'll put my money on salaries every time. Because when you get that 25-year-old or 30-year-old who's looking to join Albany County, they're not looking to, you know, about their retiree benefits. They're looking, how's that going to pay my mortgage? How is that going to pay my car payment? There was one other thing I wanted to mention, but it escapes me. But we have to appreciate that we have a finite amount of dollars. We have to be wise in how we spend these. And I'm not sure that this, moving from 20 years to 15 years, is going to do it. And now I remember the other point. As Mr. Commisso points out, the unions are going to come at us at their first opportunity. Now, that might be 2 or 3 years down the road when they renegotiate their contract, but we all will sit here and shake our heads yes and say, yep, they're going to be there, and that's the first thing they're going to talk about. They want to have parity with the non-union employees. And yes, I know it's a negotiating item, but they're going to say, look, that's already, you know, that's already been given to everybody else. Now let's talk about salaries. Let's talk about other things. So it is very, very important when you look at these, and because of the far-ranging implications of this, not just this year's budget, not this year's budget, but 10 or 15 or 20 years out, that we make a smart decision for our constituency and the taxpayers of the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to recognize Council Canizero, then I'm going to Mr. Ward, then to Mr. Higgins.
So the first point is I just have the report available that Frank is referencing. It's over 100 pages, the report that shows the average retirement age is well over 65 or 62 for a county employee. I have it if anybody wants to see the report. We can forward it. It has a lot of answers, and I'm sure we're asked. The second point, just to clarify, with your respect, Mr. Manick, that $500 million you're referencing, which is in the same report, is not just related to healthcare costs. That's related to active employees, which are 1,700, and retired employees. You're talking about 3,400 employees, not just healthcare costs. You're talking about all non-pension related costs, including Social Security, Medicaid. So you're talking about a much different thing than this limited realm of retirement benefits for retirees. That $500 million has nothing to do with just healthcare. That has to do with the 30-year amortized cost of 3,400 employees. That's a different topic, just to clarify. So anyway, continue.
Mr. Ward.
I have no objection to deferring to Mr. Higgins. He is on the committee.
Mr. Higgins.
Mr. Ward can go first.
All right, I'll go first.
He's deferring to you.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
I have no objection to refer to you.
I was named chair of personnel just after Albany County changed from 10 years to 20 years. And we did that as a cost savings measure. And during my time as chair to this present day, I see the effect, a negative effect on what we have done. We've had time to evaluate this. We probably did save some money, yes, but we've also lost opportunity on many qualified employees. We are competing, we are in a unique position, Mr. O'Brien mentioned this earlier, we're in Albany. And we compete with the state, we compete with other municipalities. And I know many people who would like to work for the county as a stepping stone, maybe in the positions that we're having a hard time finding. There are not a lot of municipal administrators around, believe it or not, local government administrators, and they probably couldn't take this job if they had any experience at all. And by experience, I mean 10 years or so in the workforce, knowing that they had to wait 20 years to get health insurance. The other issue I brought up earlier in personnel was we had, and I thought it was a great session back during the budget process, we had a session, the future of our workforce. And this is one of the biggest issues that I heard from HR, from some of the department heads, was that they have a hard time recruiting employees here that have to stay 20 years to retire. Now I know the municipality that I happen to work very closely with, it is 10 years. I know other municipalities where it is 10 years, and I heard tonight that the state is 10 years. I said all along that it should be 10 years. In fact, after rethinking it and watching the effect, I think it really should be 10 years. But I think 15 years is a good opportunity for us to evaluate the effect on 15 years, and then we can go back or forth however we see fit, based on the evaluation over a couple of years. But I think 15 years is a step in the right direction. I think it would allow us to recruit a 35 or 40-year-old that would have to stay here 15 years. Obviously those that are in their 40s have a great deal of experience. They may be willing to move here, and they can't because they don't want to work well into their 60s or 70 to get health benefits.
Mr. Higgins.
Just, I guess, 2 points. One is a question for Mr. Ward. The change that you are referring to, do you remember when that occurred?
I don't, but I know when,
How long?
I lose track of the years I've been here, Chris, but.
10 to 20?
I do.
1999.
So that was 20 years ago.
Correct.
When was it?
1999.
Yeah, that was early in my tenure.
Okay. And then I guess just on the resolution itself, I would be open to supporting something like this, but I am interested in seeing some sort of a fiscal analysis, the effect this would have on the county's financial plan. Is there some sort of numbers that management budget is run to say this would increase cost X amount of money, or savings because you're going to get better people? I'd really be. It's not so much in the immediate, but it's the out years that I would be interested in seeing. When we pass these PIC bills and stuff in the legislature, an actuary has to put a cost right in the bill. I'd just be interested to know, and I don't know, Frank, if you've got any analysis like that, of sort of what, or maybe it's impossible to predict. I would be interested in seeing that.
I don't want to cut off Paul. I can answer that, but I'll let Paul go.
Go ahead, Mr.
I've never taken my insurance benefits from the county, so I have to plead a certain amount of ignorance. So I'd like to ask a couple of basic questions because I think they make a difference. If somebody works here for 10 years, if they work for the state of New York for 15 years and they come here and they work for 10 and they want to retire, what insurance option do they have? None? They get no insurance?
Sorry, Mr. Bird, I didn't
Okay.
get the question.
15 with the state, 10 with.
10 with us. I mean, so what happens to someone who has cumulatively 35 years of public service, 10 with Albany County? Now, they may not be fully vested, okay, but do they have access to health insurance?
So if they, and you're assuming they're coming from another municipality?
From the state of New York, Town of Colony, City of Albany.
So if they're coming from a municipality that's within the local retirement system, they're going to be credited for purposes of their pension for those years run through. So that's a separate issue.
Civil service insurance.
Yep.
Okay.
So in terms of our insurance, we have, the answer is right now under our policy, generally you have to have 20 years of credited county service to be entitled to full retirement benefits for you or a
The
spouse.
key word is full, okay?
Correct.
What are you entitled to at the end of 10 years of service?
That's a question that.
Because there are municipalities, I
So-
came from the town of Colony, where at 10 years, you got 50% of the retirement benefit.
You mean for?
At 10 years of Colony service, you got 50% of the cost of healthcare. At 15 years, you got 75% of the cost of healthcare. And at 20 years, you vested for the full subsidized town of Colony paying for all your health insurance on. So I guess the question I really have, I need to understand is, if somebody comes from 15 years in the city of Albany and works here 10 years in Albany County, do they still have access to health insurance at some prorated rate? Or are they bare? Because I think that's a critical thing for this committee to understand.
I think that's an excellent question. I mean, it really is, okay? So, you're saying somebody left New York State with 15, came here with 10.
And now they're 62 years old, they want to retire. And they can get, with 25 years of service, they can get 60% retirement from the state retirement system, but what health insurance are they entitled to?
Okay, that's a very good question. I think I'm gonna.
So I understand your question, Paul, now. So as far as I'm aware, in that situation, you're not entitled to any health insurance. We don't have a comparable 10, 20, 50% cut-in, as far as I'm aware.
So anybody who, what you're saying then, is anybody who comes here for a professional career as a
commissioner,
an exempt employee, anyone outside collective bargaining service, if you don't stay here for 15 years, you will never be able to retire.
Not that you won't be able to retire.
No, you'll never be able to retire with health benefit.
Yes.
Maybe you get to 65 and then you get the magic Medicare word, okay?
Which is lousy.
Well, I know I'm not there yet.
I am.
Still have Capital District Physicians Health Plan.
Thank you.
But.
Are you running for something?
But I know you're looking at the consortium deal.
Yeah, but that's where all this came from.
That's what I mean.
Right now. That's a totally different conversation that I don't think let's not go there tonight.
We have actually, what you're telling me then, is we have all sorts of people who have left county service, haven't reached 20 years, but they've reached the age of this, so they got either whatever they are and they're 62 years old, or they're 55 and they have over 30 years of service, but because they don't have 20 with the county, they are bare on insurance. I would like somebody from HR to.
Right.
It sounds like Mr. Bird is supportive of this.
Well, I don't think that's correct. I mean,
it might be.
I don't want people, excuse me, if that is correct, I am supportive of this. Because I've got a little secret. We at the Dormitory Authority changed our own rules because we're trying to bring in a $250,000 executive to run $1 billion finance and construction industry, and you try to bring someone in who's high level of performance, and if they're only going to come there and serve 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and have no health insurance, who in their right mind would come and run an agency?
Yeah.
So we changed our rules to accommodate that, because otherwise we would.
All right, let's just say this right now. The consortium is one thing.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is, I think the questions that you have, the question you posed, has caused other questions too, in regards to how we pay for health insurance for retirees, because that's what we're talking about, okay? And I think that would be a good report that should come from personnel, all right? And there's many different ways in which, is it Jim Clement?
For HR, yeah.
Yes, can explain that, okay? And so, but right now, do you think it's something that would keep us from moving forward with the 15 years that is being proposed as far as this legislation is concerned?
If it is accurate, and I'm almost finding it hard to believe that since the year 2000, every senior person who has left this county who didn't have 20 years is bare in insurance. I find that really hard to believe. Maybe they don't get 100% of their premium covered, maybe it's some lesser percentage, but if that's the case, that's a very bad situation.
Tim has something to say that I can.
Okay, Tim?
I think there is a differentiation if you were in service before 1999 or if you started your service after 1999.
That's true.
That made this change.
That's true too.
All right, so I think we need to be looking at something on paper that explains all of that. Now, if we can just get back to the 15 years right here. I want Kevin to answer some of the questions that we have heard.
So Tim's right, Paul, that's a couple-parted answer. There's different answers depending on the date of hire, whether or not you need the 20 years. So it's only if you've hired after 99, only if you're hired after 1999 that you need the 20 years. So Tim is correct on that.
And before that, what is it?
Before that, so there's a couple tiers. Before that, generally it's 10 years. Generally it's 10 years that you'd only need 10 years if you were hired from 89 to 99. You would be able to retire with 10 years of credited service. When we made the change, when we made the change in 1999, anyone hired after 1999, so the people you're talking about who would have come in post-99, my understanding is if you came in with 99 in your scenario, your hypothetical, from another organization with 15 years of experience, even if you got to 25, it doesn't translate to carry over to our retirement benefits if you were hired after 99. So to answer your question, yes, for those hired after 99, there is no carryover. For those before, it's a different question, but it's, we're 20 years past 99. There's many employees who are falling within that.
Or in the cusp, because the people hired in 99 would now be reaching 20 years, and the people hired in 2000 would be at 18 years or whatever, and on. So that's the bubble.
And also whether or not the time is concurrent, or if it's cumulative, that if you worked 20 years ago with the county and you worked 2 years and then you went to work for the state and then you came back, okay? So is that 2 years going to count towards 13 to give you 15? That's another question.
There is a section in the rules that state that if you have a break in a term of service of more than 1 year, those times would go back. You can separate from the county and then be reinstated and have your accruals returned to what they were prior to your leaving the county, but that is a 1 year window.
It's a 1 year window to get retroactive status?
Correct.
And that's for health insurance purposes?
Yes.
All right, what are we doing with this? Are we tabling this? Or
Okay.
You have a request by the DOD, we need to see if there's a motion to move it out with the possibility.
Okay.
The last question I have, and I would really appreciate it, I will vote to put this on, but I would really like to have some of these answers,
So,
okay?
Paul, just for the committees, I've been in discussions with Commissioner Clement for weeks now. A lot of these questions take a significant time to answer, so she's working.
I'm a retired guy with a night job.
Correct.
I've got time.
She's currently, as we speak, I spoke to her this afternoon, she's in the process. We sent a whole list of all these type of questions 10 days ago. She's still working on it. She's indicated to me that the answers will be to us before the legislative vote. I talked to her this afternoon, and so there's something coming from HR.
So I'm going to move, Mr. Higgins?
Yeah, I'm comfortable moving this out with a favorable recommendation with a caveat that information is provided to all the members. I'm not going to want to vote on this on the floor until I
Okay, and
Okay.
I may have some follow-up questions, and that I would like to have the answers to. Maybe what we can do, I mean...
Email, do email.
We do hear you, okay? And if those questions are being addressed, and if there's anything else that Paul would like to have addressed, or Mr. Higgins, okay, I would suggest that the office, contact and get on.
Well, also inform the rest of the members of the committee.
Right.
Email.
Right, just email.
Email,
Now,
that's all.
and also, with that in mind, keep in mind that personnel has already passed it out favorably, okay?
Madam Chair.
And we have a motion, okay?
Madam Chair, I haven't been recognized. Can I have an opportunity to
Yes.
speak on this? Thank
Did
you.
you say 10 minutes?
No, I haven't been recognized, so
Oh, okay.
I want to speak on this issue. First of all, I've spent 30 years of my life in the private sector, and I don't have any health insurance benefit. Well, I mean, government work, people work for the government because of the benefits.
That's your choice.
And we have good benefits. So let's understand that we have good benefits for our employees. There's a whole world of people out there who don't get these benefits.
We all make
okay?
life choices.
Number one. No, not necessarily. I want to start at $1,600
We all make
a
life
year.
choices.
People come to state and county government for the benefits.
Okay, so we're
That's
already,
part of it
we do
all.
well by them, okay? We do well by them. We have a good benefit package. And so that's something that needs to be considered. There's a whole world of people that don't get it, okay? Yeah. Secondly, we work very hard to control healthcare costs, we as a government and other governments as well. This takes us in a different direction. This will raise healthcare costs and the recurring costs that last every year. And we know that healthcare is expensive and it's not going to get any cheaper.
And that's why I asked for that information, right? So
Yeah, and I have the controller working on some information that I hope we can provide.
have him send it along.
I'll send it all when I get it. So,
Great.
For that reason, I think our benefit program right now is very good, and I think this moves us in the wrong direction in terms of managing costs.
All right, we now have a motion on the floor to pass this out
Motion.
favorably, and we have a second? Have a second? Okay, so now we're gonna take the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Two opposed. Okay, so it passes out favorably. Okay. And motion to adjourn. All right, thank you.